What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're back with our little series that we're doing depending on how it goes, and that is a fighter in every EA Sports UFC game from UFC 1 to UFC 4. I may do some fighters where I do them in all 7 games from Undisputed 2009 all the way to UFC 4, but for the most part it seems to make more sense just to do all the EA Sports games. And today we are doing a lot of you guys' greatest fight ever, you believe. I don't believe so. And that is 29-0 Khabib Nurmagomedov. And for these videos, what I do is I compare them in order how they look visually, their stats, how they play, and I talk about how they feel in each one. Of course, sometimes it's based on the character, sometimes it's down to how the game plays as a whole. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. So to start with, we have got Khabib's stats in UFC 1. As you saw there, a 90 overall. So UFC 1 came out in June 2014, and around that time, Khabib's best victory was Rafael dos Anjos in April of 2014. Before that, he'd beat Pat Healy and Abel Trujillo. So he hadn't fought the best of the best. Rafael dos Anjos was definitely his best win, but this was before Rafael dos Anjos was ever a champion. And we can see he's got pretty good stats, you know, still a pretty low takedown, to be honest. All pretty low standard health stats, really, and some pretty good perks. And at this point, he was 22-0. Now we go over to UFC 2, where he was only 23-0, so he only had one fight. This game came out 2 years later in March of 2016. And again, he had not actually fought from UFC 1's release until UFC's 2 release. He hadn't fought. The only fight he had got after that was in April of 2016, which was Daryl Horcher, where he won by TKO. So all of his stats were just based off the Rafael dos Anjos victory, I believe, because I think they had done him before he had the RDA fight. So at this point, still, you know, pretty good takedown defense. And we see, obviously, ground and clinch game is insane. 23-0. Really good ground, actually. It was 98 top gain. Look at the submission stats. We see this insane. Ground defense off the back is pretty bad. And ground and pound is not great in this game, to be honest. It still played okay, but his stats are not that good. So, I mean, from 2014, he didn't actually have a fight in 2015 at all. And like I said, he only had the 2 fights in 2016. One in April and then one in November. But, of course, this game came out in March. So, it was before those 2016 fights actually ever happened. So they literally just went off the one RDA fight, probably the Pat Healy fight as well, which were both 3-round unanimous decisions. So not much to go off, but still a pretty generous stat base for him in this game. And then we go to UFC 3, where he jumps up to a 27-0 record. This game came out February 2018. So between those 2 games, he obviously fought Daryl Horcher, Michael Johnson, Edson Barboza, and I believe 2 months after this game came out, he fought Al Iaquinta. All victories, you know, TKO, submission, and 2 decisions across the board. Very, very good stats in this game. Ground game was just insane. You were not getting this man off you. 97 grapple stamina says enough. Absolutely insane in this game. Just incredible. And then we go to Khabib's peak, which is UFC 4. At this point, he was 29-0 because they've updated the game. Beating, of course, UFC 4 came out 2020, August 2020, so they obviously based his initial stats off the Al Iaquinta fight, the Conor McGregor fight, and the Dustin Poirier fight. And then 3 or 4 months later, he fought Justin Gaethje and retired at 29-0. Of course, insane stats for Khabib across the board. Absolutely madness. You could argue his cardio deserves to be even higher in this game, but still absolutely insane. And this is a real growth of stats we see here. From a 90 overall with good stats to an insane stat line here. Now I'm going to show what he looks like visually in game with the celebration for each victory throughout the game. So obviously me winning the fight and then just his celebration. So you guys get to see what his model looks like. Now we know Khabib, he actually didn't change his hair or beard at all. Pretty much had the same. Didn't gain any tattoos or nothing. You guys are just going to see what he looks like visually here. So I'll just show you guys that now. So we start with UFC 1's celebration here. Obviously, you know, we'll see a change in shorts. I really like UFC 1 Khabib. I really do. You can tell he looks young. I'll give credit where credit's due. They definitely made him look a bit older. UFC 2, I mean, that game, I think that game was maybe more cartoony than the rest. When you really compare them side by side, you could argue UFC 2 was more cartoony in its style. Still photorealistic, but possibly more cartoony there. And again, UFC 2, they actually added his proper on the cage celebration, and they carried that through all of the games, which was obviously good to see. You see there UFC 3, again the same. And yeah, they all look good. He looks the same. They could literally have just copied and pasted his face. Slightly different abs from UFC 1 to UFC 3, but nothing to really write home about. Again, another fighter that didn't really change how he looked throughout the years. But we got a pretty impressive stat line. And then we see UFC 4 as a much older, thicker head Khabib there. I don't like how thick his hair is in this game, but I suppose he did kind of look like that in the Gagey fight. But yeah, you know, definitely a pretty standard visual model throughout. All of them look the same, but an impressive stat line growth. And then I'm going to jump across to the images where it's side by side of all four, and you guys can see UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3, and UFC 4. In UFC 4, they actually added the hairpiece. I think that was the only game they had it in. I could be wrong, but it's the only one I want to show because it's just so bloody bright. But you can see they all look the same. UFC 1's got a bit more glow in the eyes, and just the face looks a bit brighter, but all very similar. And yeah, no real complaints for the models. They didn't get better or worse, which is always good. And yeah, Khabib was an interesting one because his stat line just kept growing, but he always looked the same. I know fighters aren't exactly going to change, but I suppose a good example is like Chito Vera, how he changed throughout. He obviously wasn't in the games, but how he changed throughout real life. Different beards all the time, different hairstyles, things like that. So now we're going to get into the gameplay. As always, it's just a short bit where I tried to replicate them. I tried to get some good ground and pound in with each person. Now, of course, this will get worse as the games go on. UFC 1 had a really nice ground and pound system. As you can see, good hammer punches, good transitioning, good takedowns. And yeah, his stand-up was like okay, but you can see, I mean, he stuffs that takedown there, to be honest. But the ground and pound was really nice in this game. You got the hammer punches, you got the elbows, and you'll see it just gets worse as the time goes on, especially with like UFC 4. Just becomes absolutely shocking. Big slam takedown coming here, and lovely. So yeah, you guys will definitely see some real vicious ground and pound in a sec, and it definitely gets worse. You can see just landing those big heavy shots that he would land, big hammer fists, trying to move out the way, but he's struggling. He's definitely going to go out soon. Tries to get up, but Khabib obviously is able to stuff it. And just his grappling is just insane, man. The stamina he has on his grapple is nuts. Big shots being landed down. It's just so much fun to do this in this game. Just land such vicious punches. There we go. And he's out. And then we go across to UFC 2 against Paul Feld. Now, in this game, you could just bombard people with him. I mean, even his stand-up was good in this game. I mean, which is odd because he only had the one fight, but it's just UFC 2 was just very boxer-heavy, as I'll always say. But I mean, you'll see the ground game was it's still just insane in this game. You really can't dispute it. Obviously, I don't like the grapple HUD in UFC 2, 3, or 4, but you'll see just dominates on the ground. It's just so easy for him. The ground and pound is, of course, vicious. These elbows being landed, and you can just rain down, holy hell, especially with big shots, big, massive, I mean, you can just big elbows like that. Nasty, and he's out already. His ground and pound, his top game was insane, but it only gets better. We go over to UFC 3 here with yet again a more smothering Khabib into the crucifix. He had so much more tools in this game, and he's a lot of fun to use. He really is a lot of fun to use. You could just look at the shots that he is eating there. I didn't even want to finish him at that point. It was too early in, but I think through each game he obviously becomes more smothering, which is fun. But the ground and pound gets worse from a gaming aspect. So while like here he's landing these nasty heavy elbows and these nasty heavy shots from side saddle, UFC 1s with the hammer punches and the elbows and UFC 2s with the elbows is much more vicious, and you definitely feel like you're doing more damage, which is what you want. You see just another big takedown there. No issue. His takedown is just insane. So, you know, that's the thing. These games get worse with the ground and pound, so it doesn't feel as like vibrant, really, I suppose, like as vicious. Whereas here you can, I'm landing these big shots, whereas UFC 1 you had the hammer punches, you had the elbows, and you do with this one as well. You see the elbows there, bang, massive elbow. I mean, that's just disgusting. Really felt like you were Khabib, really felt like you were smothering them with that ground and pound constantly. UFC 4s is a joke. I ground and pound him for an entire round, and I still couldn't put him out. So obviously I had to take it into the second round. And again, the great takedowns in this game, I don't mind the takedowns. The neon belly is kind of fun to use for Khabib, but I don't like the game. The ground, I mean, it's so much weaker. Like, why does it just stop there? I wasn't out of stamina. Eddie Alvarez was hurt. This is just what I don't like about UFC 4 ground and pound. you can see just like this knockout is pathetic, by the way, but you can definitely feel like Khabib in this game because you can land a lot of ground and pound, but it is disappointing that you can't get like really nice TKO stoppages, like rain down elbows. It is a shame. You definitely feel less like Khabib in this ground. You can smother people more in this game, which is nice. In the ground, you can really like proper smother them. But I think UFC 1 is more of a smothering, and then UFC 1, 2, and 3 has just better ground and pound across the board, without a doubt. It really does. You'll see this pathetic knockout here. I mean, it's just a joke. I hate UFC 4. But overall, Khabib had that really nice, constant upward hill of improved stats. From 90 overall to then arguably in UFC 4, one of the highest rated 5-star fighters on the game. Always felt like you could really smother people. Of course, the ground and pound changed as the games changed, but you could really do some damage on the ground with Khabib. You could really, you know, use that grapple stamina, rain down those heavy shots, and do a lot of damage with him. And he's definitely fun to use. It's just a shame that the UFC games don't. It feels like they don't encourage. They don't encourage the ground game quite as much because the shit's getting simpler and simpler and simpler, and it's boring. So you know, Khabib at 29-0, like I said, from going 22-0 at 90 overall to one of the highest rated fighters at 29-0, you really can't dispute it. Overall, good fighter model, good fun to play as, definitely better in the older ones because you can land more vicious ground and pound, but still good fun on this game, and I thoroughly enjoyed using him for this video. So if you guys have enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe down below. What Khabib is your favourite? Which one do you prefer using if you do use Khabib? Like I said, they don't really encourage the ground game, so it's tough to want to have fun on the ground with these fighters, but the ground and pound in the earlier UFCs definitely make it enjoyable, and definitely made it enjoyable for this video. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.